That was Glory by John Legend and Common. And it was from the movie Zelma about the march across that famous bridge led by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And I felt this song was so appropriate for today because our topic is mobilizing anger, mobilizing anger. And my favorite line in that whole song is the biggest weapon is to stay peaceful. The biggest weapon is to stay peaceful, which isn't always easy to do, right? So that's where we're going today. And as Jan has beautifully prepared us for today's talk with her meditation and her opening prayer, and reminding us that we are open at the top. Yes, that is our annual theme, and that is the basis of Science of Mind, being open at the top. So we continue with our August theme, the fear and the furious, exploring the significance of fear and fury, anger in our spiritual development. So I just want to recap a little bit this month and this journey that we've been on. So we started with anger as a force for change. And we were reminded that anger is not the enemy, it's energy. It's not the enemy, it's energy. So when guided by love, that same energy can become a force for healing and transformation. And then we used some of the lessons from the franchise, The Fast and the Furious, and explored fear through the lens of fierce clarity. Fear becomes a compass. And one of the things that I use to illustrate that is that fear is not a red light. Fear is a flashlight, right? It's something that illuminates something that we need to see that maybe previously we did not see. And it reveals the next step that we can take, right? It doesn't reveal the whole journey, but it reveals and illuminates the next step so that we can keep moving forward. So clarity is born the moment what if meets what is truth. What if meets what is truth. And then last week, Chris invited us to consider what it means to be in the presence of fear and to recognize that feeling fear is not a spiritual failure. So sometimes we think when we feel fear or anger that somehow we have failed. We have not, right? It's just another feeling, right? So we could stand in the presence of what feels like fear or anger without allowing it to control us. It is not who we are. I feel anger. I feel fear. It is not who I am. It is not who you are. So today we're taking another step because eventually we have to decide what are we going to do with what we feel? What are we going to do with the anger? What are we going to do with the furious? What are we going to do with the fear? So our topic today is mobilizing fear. And I want to begin with this idea that anger tells us what we care about. Just think about that. Anger tells us what we care about. If we didn't have some response to something, we wouldn't really care about it. So I really tune in when I'm triggered because there might be something here that I care about. So let me pay attention. And love tells us what to do about it. And our gifts give love a way to move. So when we think about it, possibly beneath our anger about injustice is often the love of justice. Beneath our anger about inequality is a love for fairness and justice or dignity. And beneath our anger when someone we love is mistreated can be loving kindness. Beneath our anger about what is happening in our communities, in our world, in this country, may be a deep love for humanity and a vision of what we believe is possible. Because anger can tell us what we care about. Love tells us what to do about it, and our gifts gives love a way to move. So perhaps the spiritual question, if we take this deeper, isn't simply why am I angry? Maybe the deeper question is what does my anger reveal about what I love? What does my anger reveal about what I love? And once I know what I love, what gift do I have that love can use? What gift do I have that love can use? Because each of us has something. Each of us has something. So, something that we know how to do, something that might come naturally to us, something that love and life has uniquely expressed through us. We all have something. And perhaps mobilizing anger isn't about trying to do all the things, right? We can't do everything. Perhaps it's about discovering specifically what is mine to do. What is mine to do? So I mentioned that last week I was in Atlanta. My girls are all settled in for sophomore year, and I decided to spend a couple of extra days there in Atlanta. And I went to visit the exhibit of Amy Sherrod called American Sublime. Now, you may say, I don't know who that artist is, but everyone knows her because she is the woman who painted the portrait of our former First Lady and my forever First Lady, Michelle Obama. So everyone's familiar with that portrait. And I think I have it. If you're not, I'm going to share it with you. Here it is. You'll see that? Thumbs up. Okay, thank you. So that is the portrait that Amy Sherrod painted of Michelle Obama, and that's me looking at it. And Aria captured this picture. It's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary piece of art that she captured. Now, what I wasn't expecting there was another piece of art that she did. And maybe you're not aware that she did this piece of work as well. And I'm going to pull that up for you to see. And you'll tell me if you'll know who this is. You could write it in the comments. Do y'all see that picture? Do you know who that is? I see Cheryl shaking her head yes. I see Susie shaking her head no. And many of you don't have your cameras on, so I can't see if you're shaking your head or not. So this beautiful piece is a portrait of Breonna Taylor. Do you know who Breonna Taylor is? Yes, Susie knows who she is. So, like you, Susie, I didn't know that Amy Sherrod did a portrait of Breonna Taylor, and it was commissioned by Vanity Fair. So, Breonna Taylor was on the cover of Vanity Fair when after she was murdered by the police in 2020. And that's how most of us came to know Breonna Taylor, right? Through the circumstances of her death. So, Breonna Taylor, if you're not familiar, was a 26-year-old Black woman who was shot and killed by police in her Louisville home in 2020. She was in her bed. They busted into her house, shot through the windows, and killed her. So Amy Sherrod wanted us to see something more than the circumstances of Brianna's death. She wanted us to see Brianna. I stood in front of that, and this is an enormous portrait, and just cried. One, because I was shocked to see it. Two, because it was so beautiful and full of life. And Amy interviewed her mother, Brianna's mother, and captured like her favorite color was aquamarine. So the dress was commissioned and was aquamarine. And her Brianna's boyfriend had an engagement ring and he was going to propose to her. So Amy Sherrod had the paint included the engagement ring on her finger in the portrait. And she just looks so graceful and beautiful to me. And Amy Sherrod has a way of painting where the person in the picture looks like they're looking at you. So you know those paintings where no matter where you move, it looks like the person is looking at you, right, Melissa? You had that experience, and so that's how Amy paints as well. So Amy Sherrod couldn't change what happened to Breonna Taylor. She couldn't restore the future that was taken from her. But Amy had something that she could use to mobilize. Amy had a gift. She could paint. And so she painted. She took the grief, the outrage, the injustice, and the love and expressed them through the gift that was uniquely hers. She created something that insists that we see Brianna not simply as a victim or a name associated with tragedy, but as a human being, as a daughter, as a sister, as a girlfriend, as a fiance, as a woman with dreams who had a life. Amy used her art. She mobilized the gift that was hers to give. So while I was in Atlanta, I also visited the King Center. And I began thinking about another person who knew something about mobilizing powerful emotions, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King was not indifferent to injustice. He spoke with moral outrage about racism and poverty and segregation and violence. He spoke about these things. And there's a really famous speech called The Other America, where he says, a riot is the language of the unheard. A riot is the language of the unheard. So be clear, he wasn't endorsing violence. He was asking America to pay attention to what anger was saying. What conditions made people feel unheard? What injustice was underneath the unrest? What needed to change? And Dr. King understood something really important, that anger can tell us that something is wrong, but anger alone cannot tell us how to make it right. That requires consciousness. Love consciousness, oneness consciousness, cosmic consciousness. That requires intentionality. That requires the powerful force of love. And that is what Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was. He was a champion for the power of love. And it requires us to ask, what do I have that can serve this moment? Dr. King had something. He had a voice. He had leadership. He had courage. He had an extraordinary ability to communicate and mobilize people around a vision of what is possible. And he used his gifts. He preached, he organized, he marched, he challenged, he spoke. Amy Sherrod had her art. Dr. King had his voice and his leadership. Different gifts, right? Different gifts, different expressions, but both put what was theirs in service to something they loved. So that caused me to think about myself, right? Because we think about Gandhi and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and we think about people who have the gift of painting, and these things stir us up, right? But what about me? What about you? What's mine? What's yours? So I thought about what is the gift that is mine that I uniquely bring? And for me, it's joy. It's joy. Joy is my ministry. Joy is a part of who I am and how I have been called to show up in the world. I believe in the transformative power of joy. Now, I'm not talking about a joy that pretends that everything is okay when it isn't. I'm not talking about a joy that ignores injustice. And I'm not talking about a joy that says we're just going to smile our way through the pain. That's not the joy that I'm talking about. There's no spiritual bypasses here. I'm talking about the joy that says, I see what is happening, and I still believe in the possibility of something greater. I still believe when we say that we envision a world that is rooted in oneness. I believe that in spite of what I see, in spite of what is happening. And I could use my joy as an expression of that. I could be angry about injustice and still choose joy. I can grieve what is happening in the world and still embody joy. I could stand against hatred and still stand as joy. To me, joy is resistance because there are forces in our world that thrive, y'all, thrive on fear, soaks it up like oxygen. But there is a consciousness that we stand as and for, and that consciousness is a consciousness of love. Because there is a consciousness that thrives on division, on separation. There are circumstances that would have us believe that despair is the only reasonable response. Let's just give up. What can we do? And I refuse to give up my joy. Refuse. So I teach joy, I preach joy, I create spaces for joy. I remind people that joy is available right where you are, right here and right now. I invite people to live life in joy. So that's one way I mobilize anger. That's one way I mobilize what I'm feeling. I mobilize my anger through the gift of joy. And then there's some practical things, right? We could use our resources to mobilize. So one of the resources that I use is my money. So I try to be very conscious about where I spend my money. When I can, I intentionally support businesses, organizations, and people whose values align with mine. The values of love, of oneness, of community, of inclusion, and support Black and Brown communities. Because my money has a voice, especially in a capitalistic society. So every dollar supports something. Every dollar I spend participates in something. So I want the voice of my money to align with the vibration of my values. So joy is one of my gifts, money is one of my resources, and both can be mobilized. And here's what's important. Your gift doesn't have to look like my gift. Just like my gift doesn't look like Amy Shiraz or Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Because guess what, y'all? We don't need another Amy Sherrod. We don't need another Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. We don't need another Red Melissa. What we need is you, each and every one of you, to show up as your gift. We need the gift that life has uniquely expressed as you. So the question isn't, why aren't I doing what they're doing? That's not my gift. That's not my divine assignment. The question is, what is mine to do? What is yours to do? Maybe your gift is music or writing. Maybe your gift is your vocation, your ability to teach or organize or nurture. Maybe your gift is gardening, listening. Maybe your gift is the ability to advocate. Maybe your gift is your ability to make people laugh. Maybe your ability is to bring people together. And then the resources that we have, right? We all have resources that we can use to mobilize our vote, our money, our time, our generosity, our relationships, our influence. Your gifts are who you are. Your resources are what you have. So mobilize both because love can use both. So whatever is yours, use it. We started the service with Use Me by Ricky Byers. So let us be used to mobilize love. Our Science of Mind teachings is about the transformative power of love. We can change our lives, we can change the world. And we remember that love rules through what? What does love rule through? Love rules through love. Love rules through law. Ernest Holmes writes in the Science of Mind text, love is the divine givingness. Law is the way. Love is the divine givingness. Law is the way. Love points the way, and law makes the way possible. So we teach in Science of Mind, religious science, new thought, love and law. Love points us towards the matter, and love gives us that vision, right? The possibility. Love says, this is what matters to me. So anger may say something is out of alignment, something ain't right here. And then the law asks, what are you going to do about it? Because it's not enough to just notice that something is out of alignment. What are you going to do about it? Because love without expression remains intention. So we could set intentions all day, all night, but if there is no action, then it is not going to blossom. Just like a seed, you can hold a seed in your hand all you want. That seed is not going to grow into a plant until you put it into the soil and you nurture it. So, what is it? The law gives love a way to move into form. And one of the ways that love moves into form is through us. It's through us, through our creativity, our resources, our voices, our choices, and our gifts. So our consciousness becomes choice. Our choice becomes action, and our action becomes demonstration. That is the creative process. Consciousness, action, demonstration. So we create that ripple, and maybe your ripple might feel small. Sometimes my ripple feels small. That's okay. Still ripple, still ripple. That one speech, that one painting, that one vote, that $1, that one conversation, that one song, whatever it may be, that one act of generosity, that one decision about where you shop, that one decision to speak up instead of remaining silent. Ripples move, they touch other ripples, they become waves, and consciousness begins to shift. But we have to participate in it. So let us never underestimate what love can do with a willing person and the gift that is already in their hands. I think again about standing in front of Amy Sherrod's portrait of Breonna Taylor. Amy couldn't change what happened, but she could paint, and so she painted. The same with Dr. King. He couldn't single handedly dismantle racism, but he could preach, he could organize, he could move people, he could lead. And so that's what he did. And me, I can't personally change every system of injustice that makes me angry, but I could bring joy. I could bring joy. I could create spaces where people remember that despair does not have the final word. And so I do. And you have something too. What is it? What is that gift that wakes you up in the middle of the night? What is that gift that you secretly have conversations with? Give it a voice, give it expressions. You have influence because you are love itself. So maybe you've been looking at what's happening in the world and asking, what can I possibly do? Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe today's spirit is inviting you to change this question and ask, what is mine to do? What gift has already been planted within me? And how is love asking me to use it? Anger, guided by love, can build. It can build. It can stand for joy, peace, love, and oneness. And when each of us brings what is ours to bring, when each of us bring our gifts, those individual expressions become a collective force for change. So remember that your anger is energy. Your love gives that energy direction. Your gifts give it expression. So you don't have to do everything, but you can do your thing. You can do your thing. So, what is your gift? How is love asking you to use it? And when you know, mobilize by taking action. Use love and law. Use our teachings. Put it into practice. So, a couple of weeks ago, I gave you some love work for fierce clarity, and it was 3 questions. The first question was, ask fear, what are you illuminating for me? The second question, what truth is asking to become clearer? And the third question was, what courageous step is spirit inviting me to take? So we're going to build on that because I have 3 more questions for us to add to this. And I'm going to put it up on the screen so that you can see it. If you want, you could take a screenshot of it and use this to support yourself. If you're in a space of anger, you can use this to support yourself. So give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Thank you. So here are the 3 questions. What am I angry about? What am I angry about? Let's name it. We're not judging it, and we certainly not bypassing it. No spiritual bypasses, right? We're simply acknowledging I'm angry about something. I'm feeling angry. So that's 1. 2, what does my anger reveal about what I love? So, what value, what person, what community, what possibility or vision matters deeply to me? Your anger might be revealing, I'm angry about injustice. It reveals that I love justice, I love dignity, I love respect. 3, what gift or resource is mine to mobilize? So, what is one action I can take using something that I already have? My voice, my creativity, my time, my money. It could be your influence, your vocation, your compassion, your joy. It's a gift. You have it. I promise you, you do. So, what gift or resource is yours to mobilize? And then complete this question, this sentence. And I gave you an example here. Because I love life, I love life. I will use my gift of joy, to spread joy in the world through my ministry of joy. So, because I love blank, you fill in the blank. I will use my gift of blank. What is your gift? And what are you going to use that gift to do? So, that is your love work. So, we're not trying to change everything. You just do your thing. Just do your thing. Create that ripple. That's all that's required so that we can continue to mobilize love. So let's take this and anchor it in affirmative prayer. Let's take a breath in and let it out. So we know that there is one infinite presence, one power, one life, one love that is moving through all creation. It is the power that calls forth justice, the love that recognizes the sacredness of every life. It is the wisdom that knows the way. It is the courage that moves when it is time to move. It is the creativity that finds a way where there sometimes appears to be no way. It is the very presence of God itself. And this presence is right here, right now, expressing as me, as you, as each and every one of us, because there is no separation. The same divine power that has moved through artists and activists, through teachers and healers, through prophets and peacemakers, through mothers and fathers, through ordinary people doing extraordinary things, is moving through us now. And so I declare, use me, Spirit. Use my voice, use my hands, use my feet, use my creativity, use my resources, use my influence, use my joy. Take everything that I am and everything that I have and let it become an instrument of love. So where there is injustice, show me what is mine to do. Where there is division, show me how I can create connection. Where there is despair, let my joy become evidence that despair does not have the final word. Where anger arises within me, I do not deny it. I do not fear it. I listen. I ask, what do I love? What is mine to do? What gift is waiting to be used? And then Spirit gives me the courage to move. I know that I cannot do everything, but I can do my thing. I know that you cannot do everything, but you can do your thing. So let us bring what is ours to do. Let us use what is already in our hearts and in our hands. And I know that when each of us brings our gifts, when each of us rises and raises our voice, when each of us create our ripple, something begins to shift. And that ripple becomes a wave. Individual acts become collective movement. Consciousness changes, love takes form, and a new possibility emerges. So I stand available. I stand in the glory. I stand in the willingness. I stand in the spirit to use me, to let my anger become energy that mobilizes love, to let love give it direction, to let my gifts give it expression, and let my life, this life right here and right now be a part of creating a world that works for everyone. So I give thanks. I give thanks knowing that the movement has already begun. I give great gratitude for the power that is present. I am grateful for the gifts that are within us. I am grateful that the time is now. And so I release this word into the law, knowing that it is done, knowing that it is so, knowing that we are moving. And so we say together, Ashe, Amen, and so it is. And so it is.